It's Nerd 30. So come one, come all to the nerdiest show of them all. The Omega level nerds are ready to talk nerdy to you. All right, well, hey, it is Nerd 30, of course. Solo edition of the Omega level nerds coming at you. Dsquare here with you tonight. We'll see who else pops in, but let's get right into it here. Very unfortunate situation. So we continue to have some developments in the Disney Scar Jo Scism. This is, of course, over the fact that Scarlett Johansson has brought a lawsuit up against Disney because they released the Black Widow on Disney Plus at the same time as its theatrical release. This, of course, has revenue implications for Scarlett Johansson, so we can certainly all understand that. But as I said on previous shows, I think this also just has a whole lot to do with drawing a line in the sand when it comes to these dual releases that open the movie up to increased pirating, and that's pretty much been proven by the numbers. It is also interesting to note that the rest of the Marvel MCU movies that are going to be released are going to have a theatrical release only. Now, I'm sure that means that they will land on Disney Plus about 45 days after, it is in the theaters, but nonetheless, still giving it a chance to have that exclusivity and to get that opening weekend revenue that, is of such importance to any movie. Gonna open up my cold pop here. But yeah, so what's unfortunate about this fight is, of course, in response to that lawsuit, Disney, basically threw shade at ScarJo. We paid her $20 million, so they put that out there. They, make mention of the fact that the pandemic, suggesting that she is insensitive to it, so being unreasonable. And now we learn that Disney has basically canceled all upcoming projects to have to do with Scarlett Johansson. So there's speculation that her, Black Widow could potentially come back in the MCU. And that may be, but not the, not the Scarlett Johansson version at least. What I think is even more to be concerned about, depending on who you are, I guess, is in watching the Suicide Squad. Of course, James Gunn, at the time when he started that movie, had been fired by Disney. And of course, Gina Carano was also fired by Disney. But these moves are not popular to, the people, the Jon Favreaus of the world, and Kevin Feige's, those level of people are really, taking it hard as far as their talent being messed with like this. And I reference the Suicide Squad because you can, if you've watched videos that, people that have way more time than I have to analyze these movies, but, it's great that they make videos pointing us to Easter eggs and really kind of some like middle fingers to Disney from James Gunn and the Suicide Squad. So I just wonder if this is going to happen at a scale where like there's this mass exodus of talent, directors, actors that go over to the DCU just as a kind of FU to Disney, getting back at Disney. Could Kevin Feige jump ship and go over to whoever they are now, Discovery, AT&T, whatever the hell, whoever controls the DC shit? Could we see that? I hope not. I think not. Because there's a lot of money to be made, right where he's at. But I don't know. We are really starting to see a schism between like what Disney wants and will tolerate and kind of the ground level people. I know Jay was upset about this, and it'll be interesting to get his take when we next see him. But yeah, it's just really unfortunate. This is really the biggest kind of mix-up that we've had in this whole MCU thing. Really, any hard feelings up until this point from anybody. But now, yeah, now it's a whole big thing. All right, well, speaking of Marvel and what if all these people jump ship, they did release we have a new Disney Plus show, new Marvel Disney Plus show, Marvel's What If. I had some of these comics and collected a couple of them as when I was younger. There's a couple back there, like what if the X-Men died, and what if the Hulk killed Wolverine, stuff like that. And this show, it carries that same premise. Of course, it's like a really cool cel-shaded animated look. Looks really good. My only complaint is that whenever there was like bright lights or something, it looked really annoying to me. But outside of that, it looked really cool. And so the premise being is that, if one thing changed, that could have all these branching storylines. And this first show centers on the fact that what if Peggy Carter becomes, Captain Carter, instead of Steve Rogers becoming Captain America. And the decision that leads to that is, of course, in Captain America, the First Avenger movie, when he goes into that chamber, to get the super soldier injections, she goes up to the control room. But what if she stayed? And the answer to that question is that Peggy Carter becomes Captain Carter. And Steve Rogers does not. And that's really it. That's really kind of interesting that, I like just showing the one little itty bitty detail that changed. Has this great overall butterfly effect. I don't want to get too spoilery. I don't want to go full blown spoiler alerts. I will just say overall, it was very good. It's a half-hour animated show. So we're not talking about an epic here or anything. But it had really good action. However, it really did kind of just retell the story of Captain America: The First Avenger. Certainly with a twist. Again, I don't want to go too spoilery, but Steve Rogers does stick around, and he does help Captain Carter. Again, because of the changes, there comes a way where Steve Rogers can still be in the fight and actually partners with Peggy Carter in a really cool way, or Captain Carter. They've seen in the promo, so I don't know, spoilers, I guess, but basically there's the Ironmonger from the first Iron Man. They're able to invent that, get that going for Steve Rogers. So, you've seen the images where, Captain Carter's on the back of it and it like flies up in the sky. And that's a really, really cool scene, by the way. I won't say much more about it, but it is worth watching. Really, really cool. I think she is actually a way cooler super soldier than Steve Rogers was. So that's what I think. So, I don't know if you think the same, but I thought it was really, really cool. It'll be interesting to see what else they come up with. Of course, they show the Watcher a lot, which is, again, goes right with what they did in the original comics. The Watcher, of course, this entity, this godlike entity. It's not a god or god, but kind of. But they just kind of watch and record. They don't ever intervene. Unless, of course, you're the Fantastic Four up against Galactus. And then they say, hey, here, Reed Richards, there's the ultimate nullifier so you can get rid of Galactus. Okay. But outside of that, they don't ever interfere. So let me know, what did you think of the Marvel's What If Captain Carter episode? Did you like it? Do you like the animation style? And are you excited to see what else they do with the What If universe there? Moving right along here, another big piece of discussion sprinkled in, of course, as always with anything on the internet, a little bit of discourse, is the fact that it has come out in the comics that the Tim Drake version of Robin is bisexual. Personally, if you know those fans of the show, you'll know that I really, to me, the sexual orientation of a character really is just not a factor that I even pay attention to. Of course, my favorite Colossus here in the Ultimate Universe, the X-Men Ultimate Universe, is homosexual. And okay, you know, that really, he's still my favorite X-Men and superhero. But I've seen, of course, on Twitter, of all places, surprise, surprise, people complaining, you know, that they're going to abandon the character because of this. I don't get that. I mean, that's all I can really say about that. I don't get that. What I do kind of have a complaint, though, is, of course, you know, this story is actually on TMZ.com. You know, Robin comes out as bisexual. Holy LGBTQ Cape Crusader. Robin's dropping big personal news in the latest installment of Batman Urban Legends. He's bisexual. Tim Drake is a DC character who fights crime as Robin, and when the sixth installment of the comic book dropped Tuesday, the story ended with Tim saying yes to going on a date with a guy named Bernard Dowd. The problem here is, and I guess I'll show you. Maybe. Well, the problem here is, and I'm not doing this right, so I'll just go back. Well, hold on. Let me fix it. I'm sure this is ultra awesome. All right, F it. Anyway, if you go on TMZ here, it shows several pictures of Robin. Outside of the actual comic panel that it shows, it has like 4 pictures of Robin. None of them are Tim Drake. So I don't know. That's just kind of sus to me. Why show all sorts of pictures of Dick Grayson when we're referring to Tim Drake? I just don't get it. So what do you think? I mean, would that change your perspective of a character? The sexual orientation? It really makes no sense to me. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't want to be ignorant here of the fact that there are, of course, you know, uh, people that are bisexual that are enjoying this, you know, representation. Of course, I am an X-Men fan and, you know, follow other, you know, X people on Twitter. A lot of them, of course, are, you know, are in the LGBTQ community, and they celebrate, you know, because this helps them, you know, have that representation. You know, it's a vast minority, you know, so for people that's really important to. I mean, of course, the X-Men themselves have always been a metaphor, you know, for civil rights and things of that nature, but you know, for those in that community to really solidify that and again give them true representation, you know, stuff like this, you know, they do enjoy. If you're like me, I would still enjoy the character. I do not understand at all, why that would hinder your enjoyment of the stories that your favorite character is taking in a part of. They don't focus on that sort of thing in comics. They really don't. I think some people, obviously, that don't read comics think that. No, character's gay, it's woke, it's woke. I reviewed X-Men #1 recently, and of course we had a video on the channel about it because we did it, on the show. And, someone, oh, is it woke? Is there any woke? It's like, no, none. Like, other than just regular, like, good person shit. Like, it's funny because, people like that claim that others are too sensitive, yet they themselves just seem supremely sensitive to something outside of that's in their norm. Bisexual, and tomorrow's Monday, and we all gotta go to work. No big deal. Settle down. Unless, of course, you find it to be in positive, in which case, then great, celebrate it. Wonderful. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, well, we are going at a brisk pace here tonight, of course, but it's only me, so, that's going to happen. But we've got some, really cool news here to talk about real quick. So if, of course, you are aware, which I'm sure you are, of Twitch is a thing, and on this platform of Twitch, which used to be pretty much all video games, but now it's all sorts of stuff. We've talked about it. Hot tub streams, things of that nature. And people get banned. We know somebody that's got banned here on the Omega Level Nerds. And we also know that really, sometimes, there's little to no explanation of why it actually happened. You just kind of get the terms of service thrown at you, and then boom, you're done. Revenue's done. Well, per PCGamer.com, Twitch streamers will now get more insight into their suspensions. Twitch decision regarding banning and suspending streamers is becoming clear. The company announced on Twitter that enforcement notifications will now include the name of the stream and the date that the violation occurred. It's not perfect, but this system is another step toward helping streamers understand why their content got their account suspended. The picture attached to the announcement shows an example of what streamers will see when hit with a ban or suspension. Still not wishing to state what specifically it was about the content was against its rules, Twitch will continue to be vague with details surrounding bans, but this update could potentially help streamers whittle down what they did wrong. So that's big. I mean, they're still not going to get specific. I guess if you know what date and stream it was, I guess you could probably figure it out. But I guess for those that want an exact explanation as to why they were banned, you're still going to be pretty ruffled up as far as that's concerned. But at least you can, get a little bit of information there to help figure out exactly when it happened. Now, I know this next story from Kotaku here is kind of, I don't know, I think it's kind of bittersweet. So, a lot of people, for at this point, it's been years, are asking for Rockstar to make Grand Theft Auto 6. Grand Theft Auto 5 is awesome. The online is great, except for the servers are kind of crappy. You get disconnected. But outside of that, I've played a ton of Grand Theft Auto 5, a ton of Grand Theft Auto 5 online. Just have a blast with it. But for those that aren't so hip to the online portion of the game, they want Grand Theft Auto 6, they want another story, and why not? Literally, not, there's not a bad mainline Grand Theft Auto since before Grand Theft Auto 3, so I get it. But they have so many people and they're making a lot of money on the online model. There really is not a big incentive for Rockstar to go and make a whole nother game, dump, hundreds of millions of dollars in developing when they've got something that they've released on 3 or 4 consoles at this point already with an online community that's handing them money. So I get it. They did, however, announce that they are going to do the remastered trilogy coming to Switch. It's also bringing them to PS5 and Xbox consoles. So, after months of rumors and speculation, Kotaku has learned from sources that Rockstar Games may be remastering 3 classic Grand Theft Auto games. Currently, it appears these games will be released later this fall for a multitude of platforms, including the portable Nintendo Switch. For past years, the rumors have swirled on Twitter, Reddit, and various message boards that Rockstar is working on remakes or remasters of classic PS2-era Grand Theft Auto titles. These rumors only grew in popularity as Rockstar's parent company, Take-Two Interactive, used DCMA takedowns to remove classic GTA mods from the internet while announcing that the publisher had 3 remastered games in development. So they won't give you Grand Theft Auto 6, but they'll remaster some old ones. I don't know if that's going to scratch your itch. I actually kind of think I'd be surprised if it's true, because I think that would open them up to that criticism of, no, we want the Grand Theft Auto 6. We don't want old shit. But there you go. All right. Well, again, we're going to have a short show for you this week, guys, as it's just me, and I can talk, but never want to overdo it. Always want to have them leave them wanting more. So let's get into comic book talk here real quick. So recently it's come out that a lot of big time writers have went over to this service called Substack. Laying waste to exclusive deals, from the big 2. And it's funny because one of these, of course, was Jonathan Hickman, whom, we've complained about with the X-Men, because kind of seems a loaf, not really focused. And he's going to be one of the main people to no longer be exclusive to Marvel or one of the big 2, but they're going to go do this stuff in Substack. I find this really interesting because I know that on the show we often talk about really what manga is doing here in the United States, and really, in a lot of ways, is doing better than comic books. And we've really broken it down to the fact that because with comic books, there's, a writer will come in and do a 10-issue, 20-issue run, whatever. Sometimes writers will do years, of course, back in the 80s with Chris Claremont, I mean, that was a huge, long run, probably the most epic in history. But, nowadays, the runs are a lot shorter. And so there's a lot of problems when it comes from transitioning. Or not a lot, but sometimes, writers struggle to keep the continuity of the previous writers. With manga, it's usually the same writer. In fact, if the writer gets sick or deceased, they'll stop the series. So obviously that's a big pitfall for that medium. But on the flip side, on the positive end, when you've got these creators that are basically on something for life, continuity, is not a problem. And the stories, get much deeper, a lot better character development. I'm not a huge manga reader, but I've certainly read a fair share. And I will say, a lot better character development. Now, I don't like manga because I like color to my comics. So I could maybe, I can maybe get past the whole, left to right, right to left thing. But the non-color is always going to kill manga for me, which is why I thoroughly enjoy when they take a manga and put it over to anime. But nonetheless, so, we are starting to see now where the comic artists are not jumping ship, but, they're foregoing these exclusivity deals and saying, hey, let's go over and do this over at Substack. They'll work for Marvel. Hickman's still kind of the head of X. But obviously not dedicated, as we've talked about in the previous shows, that, the editor-in-chief there over at the Office of X has said they will kind of move away from Hickman's vision. He's going to, of course, do the Inferno stuff, which, I'm excited. House and Powers of 10 was cool, and, this seems like it's going to be the conclusion. That stuff's going to come to fruition. We've also got the Trial of Magneto. Leah Williams is going to be writing that, so I'm very, very interested in that. But yeah, this whole Substack thing, there's a lot of money being pumped into it. A lot of big name comic book writers are signing deals so that they can do work over to Substack. Again, foregoing these, bigger dollar exclusive deals, but and you can easily see why they want to have more creative control and own more of the properties that they create, because of course there's a ton of stories out now about how people that have created these characters, that these movies are making billions of dollars and they're based on these characters, but the original people that created them, the original brain trust of the property, they're not getting big parts of that $1 billion. All right, well, like a short one this week, guys. Things happen, so we'll have, of course, me and the other Omega Level Nerds back with you next week. Please, like and subscribe. If you enjoy the content, let me know what you think of today's topics. Do you, how you dealing with the whole Scar Jo Disney schism? Any comments, of course, on the What If episode? Let me know what you think down in the comments. And, of course, you can always go on Twitter and tweet at us at Omega Level Nerds. If you give us a follow there, I would certainly appreciate that as well. Of course, I do review comics for superheroespeak.com, so make sure you check out that website. You can also check the Superhero Speak show out. I'm on there, I don't want to say regularly, but I'm on there. But Dave, JD, John, even when I'm not there, they do an awesome job. So check them out, check that website out, and read you some comic reviews. All right, guys. Well, as always, peace and love. And we'll talk to you again soon.